Welcome to I'm From the Internet, a podcast about the internet, its users, and their consequences. I am punished comedian Winslow Dumaine, sitting here with internet historian Jaybrandstetter and guest to the pod, Kevin Impellizeri. Did I get that right again?
Absolutely perfect.
Perfect. Excellent. How's everybody doing in the last 90 seconds?
I've been thinking while we were on break, since this is kind of about a disappointing end to a trilogy, do you remember the last time you pre-ordered a game and it was really disappointing and you were just like, yeah, I'm not doing that again? Fallout
4, baby. Played that shit for 2 fucking hours and I was like, what? They massacred my boy, you know? They just got rid of it all. All of the things that made Fallout to me, they just yoinked it and doinked it. Last time I pre-ordered a game, I didn't even pre-order the new Silent Hill, and I'm the mayor, you know? And I didn't even finish Silent Hill F. I was like, this is dumb. I'm sorry. It's just dumb. It's just not my, if you like it, go for it, but it's not my thing.
I've actually never pre-ordered a game myself. The only time I ever bought a game on pre-order was, and this is, back when I was a kid, I remember I was in college, my mom pre-ordering Legend of Zelda Wind Waker for me as a Christmas present, which got me the Ocarina of Time and Ocarina of Time Master level double pack, which was awesome. So I've never, that set an impossible standard for any other pre-order, because unless I'm getting more Legend of Zelda, that I'm not pre-ordering it.
I mean, the pre-order bonuses were just never enough, because if it's digital content, I'm gonna hack it in anyway. And it's just I just don't fucking care. It's it's false scarcity. You have unlimited copies of the game because that's how game copies work. So I'm not going to pre-order. You're not going to run out, you know? I don't know. I guess the more narrow question that neither of you might have an answer for is what's the last time a franchise or a series came to a conclusion that you were just well, that was a waste of time? Do you know what I mean? What's the last time you watched the ending of something and you're like, well, I'm just going to go outside for a while?
For me, probably, I was a fan of the Fox TV show Fringe, which is basically X-Files made by the people who made Lost. And the final season, there's a huge time jump, and it becomes a completely different show about them living in a dystopia where aliens have conquered the world. And it's just man, this is not what I'm here for. What are we even doing?
I just don't trust groups of writers. I mean, there's certainly duos that can do some pretty interesting things, but I think what you do to make a show interesting is you start writing a lot of checks, and then by the end of the series, you have to let them get cashed, or people are going to be mad that they're not cashed. And then if you don't have the chops to tie it all up with a bow without any cheap endings, and endings are so categorizable that it's like TV tropes, where there's so many ways that an ending can be really dumb and bad. Oh, the ending, everybody dies in the ending. Bill Hader did that with Barry. Oh, the ending where it was a dream the whole time. The ending that was everything works out great,
Oh, mankind's the real monster.
Yeah, Deus Ex Machina.
Turns out it was bad.
There's a million ways to just write off the entire ending as, oh, you just did blank.
It's really hard to stick the landing on that. And I think the one I can think of, there are a lot of older examples that I think of, but probably the one of the most recent that I had that level of disappointment for was when I saw Rise of Skywalker in the theater.
Okay.
And, the reveal of, Reyes, Palpatine, I almost just groaned in the theater. God, no.
It must be so hard to have grounded level criticisms of Star Wars, knowing that the person next to you nodding their head is also going to be yes, and there were too many blacks, it's so hard. I have certain bones to pick with Anita Sarkeesian, but I'm not going to be any of the other psychopaths that are criticizing her, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes I legitimately get depressed thinking, thanks to COVID, how many people the last time they ever saw a movie in theater, it was Rise of Skywalker. That feels like a cosmic injustice.
No, yeah, and I know exactly how you feel, Winslow. Where it's I have some grievances and some issues I have from this movie from a filmmaking standpoint, from a storytelling standpoint. And it's you don't want to be lumped in with the chuds, and the chuds are just very loud, and it's like very hard not to be dissociated. And I'm glad you brought up Anita Sarkeesian. The same thing. There are legitimate intellectual critiques you can make about the way she analyzes games, but it's also like you can't completely separate from all of the weirdos who like got mad about her because she talked about video games at all and was a woman on the internet.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's really frustrating, and it makes it so you have to it's like, having criticisms of Candace Owens or Erica Kirk. Like, I feel like I'm the last person on the left who's like, hey guys, Erica Kirk sucks. We can do this without calling her a bitch. Like, I go so far out of my way as a comedian and also as just a guy on the fucking street to not use gendered insults or like body insults or talk about how people look. Like, I'm sure that you can do like a smash cut of me talking about fucking the hideous trolls from this podcast that we've covered in the past, but you know what I mean? Like, I there's so many things where it's like Erica Kirk doesn't suck because she's a woman or she's not a bikini model or something like that. She sucks because of the things that she believes and the things that she does hurt people, like it's a hard needle to thread.
I think my version of that was Jenny McCarthy. It was like, guys, I hate anti-vaxxers as much as you, but I really feel like you just want to have an excuse to call this woman
yes
name.
Absolutely. Yeah. To answer the question I posited earlier, I guess it's kind of hard for me because I don't get into like serialized anything. Like the last sequel that I saw was like Dune 2. I don't know. I think the last time I played a game and it was just like, this ending is so bad, I have to just get up and walk around. It's been so long, but it was like Fallout 3 was really bad, but I don't know. There's not a lot that like jump to memory because a lot of the games I play don't have specific endings. I guess like Condemned has like pretty unique, like pretty shockingly bad endings for everything else that goes on in those games.
Oh, yeah, that is very much. Oh, it turns out this is all the fault of evil discs that are being hidden around the city to drive the homeless people insane. Let's fight on a toilet bowl over it. Hey-ya, Hadouken! Like, it gets so weird.
Yeah, literally. Oh, God. So, like, such an interesting premise, everything else. And then the last 10%, you're like, okay, it's a cult. Never mind. I'm going to go outside.
Condemned 2 Bloodshot was a fun game. Again, I mentioned in the last episode, I got Mass Effect for cheap at Blockbuster. I also got like Condemned 2 for like $6 and had so much fun up until the weird, like, Goku Dovahkiin ending of that game.
Yeah, the villain is a guy with devil sticks, basically. It's the guy with dreads and devil sticks wiggling his sticks at you. It's so not intimidating.
And you like shout him to death, I think.
Yeah, because you have the power of the Oros or whatever.
And then the villain throw he's a murderer, but get this, he's a murderer that murders other murderers. We've never heard of this before.
That's never been done before, guys.
Oh my God.
And then for the sequel, we're going to have a murderer that murders other murderers that other murder. Like, it's just, okay, man, just take a hike. This is dumb.
Who murders the murderer murderers?
Yeah, who watches the Watchers of the Watchmen? That's the sequel.
Who eats the cannibals?
Yeah, that's how you get super prions. That's the secret. But I'm
I think those are one of the races in Andromeda.
Yeah, I'm looking through my stuff here, and like I just don't think I've played enough games to have that many opinions. We've already talked about Inscription having like the deep story to that game being like kind of fucking whatever.
Yeah, whose ghost? Oh, come on.
Oh, it's Hitler's ghost. Like, fuck off. Yeah, a lot of the games I play aren't really story driven terribly much.
Yeah, I think Winslow's talked about how he kind of expects things to suck, so it's what he's surprised when something isn't disappointing.
Man, that is a tough read on me, huh?
If you're not that invested from the beginning. No, that's the thing you said once, directly.
No, that's true. I mean, you're totally right. I'm just it's been a hell of a year for me, so I'm confronting a lot of parts to myself, but it's true. I do expect things to generally be pretty bad.
Speaking of really bad and being given two options, the ending of Mass Effect 3, that's where we left off. We had gone over the plot of Mass Effect 3 generally and why it was disappointing. And then we're going to resume dealing with the fallout from it. But a good illustration of what we were talking about why gamers found the ending to be disappointing, is you can literally put the different endings, the 3 different endings, the destroy, control, and the synthesis side by side. And it is the same animations and models being run with a different sort of particle effect and color being run over it, where the destroy is like a red, smoky one, control is like a blue electric one, and then synthesis is like a green, bloom light.
There's like not even a steel man defense, but like an aluminum man defense of just like, this could be a commentary on the elusiveness of choice and how like all of these things are kind of the same. But what it really is that they didn't have the money or the time or the general resources or the staff or whatever to make distinct endings. Because what the game was really leading up to be was they should have let you pick multiple angles of attack or like different planets to focus your attack that would have consequences later on or whatever. Like every like there's 3 planets really need our help. We have to pick right now. We pick one, the other ones will be wiped out forever. And like that really matters. Where like the Krogan planets will be completely exterminated, Earth gone. But if you pick this one, like it could be really meaningful, but they didn't. They picked Earth. Because of course they did. Because they already have all of the broken building textures from all of the other games, so they just filled it with that. And then it's just like, yeah, it's just you pick one of 3, and then you get to watch a little video, and then you go home. You're probably already home.
I feel like you can only get away with this multicolored ending thing if it's like Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem, and at least in that, like you have, you know, these different distinct eldritch gods which will fight to the death at the end of your game. Slight spoiler for Eternal Darkness, but
yeah, like there it's not just colors too. At least there it's like, oh, you picked red, so everyone's stronger. Oh, I picked blue, so they have magic powers. Here it is just kind of just the color coding, sort of denoting it. And yeah, as you mentioned, like sort of is probably a knock-on effect of this being a rushed production and they're being crunched because they are concluding this giant trilogy under new management. Like this train is struggling to stay on the rails after half a decade focused on the eyes on the prize. So understandable.
And well, I'll let you get into this because I've already got opinions. Go ahead.
And another sort of funny element about this worth underlining is that throughout the series, the game's sort of moral choice system is based on Renegade and Paragon, which are coded with red and blue. So you're already used to things being coded red and blue throughout the game. So it really does feel like you had a Renegade ending, a Paragon ending, and then a secret third thing ending with the green one. Like they didn't really surprise you in any way with that.
And like this is a thing that's so simple that I could at once say just one sentence, but we could also talk about it for 4 hours, is that just like in BioShock or in so many other games, in Fable or in Fallout 3, morality is a line that goes from good to bad. And you can be, in Fable, you can be maximum badness if you just eat 50 baby chicks in a row really fast, right? And you get all, because each one gives you -5 for your morality. And so you do all of that, and then you grow horns, and suddenly you're maximum evil guy because you killed a bunch of chickens. Or you can like doing a good thing where you give money you put money in the fountain for charity, and like and then you can become maximum good, right? I mean, we don't have to get into like philosophy 101, but one, implying that good and evil exists is funny because it fucking doesn't, but whatever. But it's just, it compresses the vastness of the human experience of, are you a good guy or are you a bad guy? Press the button that matches who you are. And it's just really fucking frustrating. It's really weird that they were so good at writing so many other things, and then they put in this system of just like good guy, bad guy.
I will say in BioWare's defense, compared to a game like BioShock, where like I always interpreted playing through the series like Paragon and Renegade. I think I heard this described somewhere. Maybe I think it was Ben Croshaw of all things in his review ages and ages ago. But like it's kind of like Captain Kirk versus Captain Picard. I always thought of it more like a kind of management style. Like Paragon more like the soft, empathetic touch, and Renegade like he's like, you know, he's a loose cannon, but he gets results kind of thing. One thing I appreciated with this game as opposed to a game like I also like BioShock a lot. I could talk a lot about BioShock, but like, you know, that I think one of the things that BioShock is really hamstrung and very undermined by like the way it's mechanically designed. Like there's a lot I can say about the fact that like, you know, ultimately, there's very little incentive to be evil in BioShock to harvest the little sisters, because ultimately the benefits you get for saving them ultimately are, I think, better in the long run, because you get like free tonics and the atom you lose on those kind of comes out in the wash. And I think that one of the things I personally liked about the way BioWare did it for the Mass Effect series is that ultimately Shepard, one way or the other, is the hero. He's going towards the same goal at the end, regardless of how you approach it. Kind of doesn't punish you for going either way. Although if you lean more towards Paragon or Renegade, you get like free options to decide things like, okay, my favorite of which, again, I don't know how much we want to do spoiler territory for Mass Effect.
Go for it. The game's 100 years old.
Oh yeah, we just talked about the ending.
My favorite is from the end of Mass Effect 1, where the whole thing in that game is you're fighting this character. Ultimately, you learn that the Reapers are the ultimate evil, but the evil you fight for a lot is this guy Saren. Saren's a character called the Reaper. Reaper is these kind of like special forces kind of things, and Shepard becomes the first human Reaper. Saren goes rogue. You follow him through the whole game, and eventually you realize that he has been indoctrinated by the Reapers. I'm sure we're going to talk about indoctrination eventually, but you can get to a point where there's a boss fight near the end of that game where you can, I don't know if it's Renegade because I did Paragon. If your Paragon level is high enough, it's usually a two-phase boss fight. You can try to reason with Saren. You can touch to his, I guess, not humanity because he's a Turian, but his Turianity or whatever. And you can get through to him through the indoctrination, and he will actually, he'll come to his senses and he'll kill himself. And then you fight like an undead version in the second. You can completely skip a phase of that boss fight. And I thought that was a really cool thing about like that. Paragon led to that. I don't know if there's an equivalent of that in Renegade, but like I thought that was a really cool, very satisfying thing in that, where it all kind of built to something.
All I want to say is that I'm like a morality skeptic. I think there are good and bad things to do. Like, don't do the things that we've all decided are evil, but evil is not like a quantifiable concept, right? And so it's goofy to try to put that into a game. But I think that things like Telltale, like the Walking Dead series, where like, as far as I remember, there's not a black and white morality thing, but each character will watch you do certain things and they will remember that. And so like the choices that you make and how you handle certain decisions have like long lasting implications for what those things are. When you do like a good, bad morality thing with a game that has like RPG elements, what happens is that like you'll just be a guy who did a bunch of evil stuff, and then you'll meet someone who knows nothing about you, and they're like, I'm mean to you because you're the evil guy. And you're like, you don't fucking know me. You don't have to have like these huge branching pathways, but just like if you've got a Krogan on your team and you're like super fucking racist and brutal against the other Krogans, they should notice that. And it should be more impactful to them than just being like, oh, this guy's got a lot of bad guy points,
That's a good point.
Yeah, I kind of have a bit about that myself. Or BioWare was kind of in a unique case too, because the thing that kind of put the morality choices as a gimmick on the map was Knights of the Old Republic, their Star Wars RPG. And in Star Wars, that very exaggerated black and white morality works really well because it's the Jedi and the Sith. You'll have like this scarred, pale, like dude throwing people off a cliff and shooting lightning out of his hands. Of course, he's going to be like a puppy kicking, delicious type of evil villain. And they've kind of fallen into a thing where they're like, well, we can't, that's very unrealistic. For our next game, we're doing something different. But then they still kind of fall into the same tropes. Like before this, they did Jade Empire, which was them trying to do like a Kung Fu RPG. And they're like, it's not good and evil. It's open palm or closed fist. Are you all about peace and harmony or about strength and conflict? And then in execution, it was just kind of like, I'll do it for free, open hand. I'll do it for a price, neutral. I'm going to kill you, closed fist, like that type of morality. So Mass Effect was them still making progress on that, I feel, but also just kind of having like, they're doing it because it's their brand almost. Like you can kind of see that Flanderization happening to BioWare in real time, where it's like Dragon Age is the dating one, so that's why all the characters are now love interests. Mass Effect is the cop one. That's why
it's very much morality that is split between cuck and sociopath. Like those are your two choices of the person that you can be, and that really accurately reflects the modern political divide. It's just cucks and sociopaths. It's really just hall monitors and Nazis, but yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, and you'd alluded to this earlier, but yeah, one of the things that really sort of illustrates the failure to sort of live up to people's expectations is all the different plot threads and factions that have been built up over the past 2 games. It's reduced to the single score, your effective military strength, or EMS. It's points that add up. And I think a sort of infamous example of how they failed you is the Rachni, because that was a plot line throughout the entire series. It was pretty well remembered, and it's about, in the first game, there's these giant alien spiders called the Rachni, and they had been an existential threat to the galaxy in the past. They thought they had been wiped out. It was like measles, basically. And then one of the big choices in the game is you find out that the bad guys had found and reactivated a Arachni queen, and you can either let it go and it promises like, oh no, we're not going to hurt you guys this time, or you can either exterminate it again to make sure it doesn't threaten the galaxy. And that was a big choice. They were always talking about, like, whether you spare or save them is going to play off in the future. Even like in the art book, I found a quote, like they call it one of the biggest decisions in the first Mass Effect. And they said early on, we wanted to bring the species back. So like from the very beginning, they were like, guys, this is going to pay off. Trust us. We're calling this shot. And so the Rachni was kind of emblematic of what they wound up doing with them.
I also just don't like when alien species are like drawn to be complete, like this is an alien species as it's presented. Fucking bulging, bulbous boobos of rot, and it's got these glowing bits and these like fanged tentacles coming out. Like, it's so hideous and monstrous. And like, you look around it, like, yes, if you look at an ant up close, it's scary. But like, they were making this to be so over the top grotesque that, like, of course it's hard to sympathize with it. And I remember people getting like really fucking mad about people that tried to sympathize with it. But that was just like, people who like would later like there's got to be a word for people who like later on in life realize that they're racist, but like it's kind of like an egg situation where like you realize that you're trans, but you're just like, wait a minute, these feelings I've been having about video game bugs, I can actually apply to human beings. you just make that realization.
The Rachni Queen blows your mind, then you walk outside and see the Yoda holding the Stop Wars mural, and you're like, oh my God! It's just like the most impactful day of your life.
Learning empathy through first principles, I feel, I mean, I don't want to sound incredibly, like, derail so completely. I just, until you described it, Jay, I never realized they just, like, used the word arachnid and made that the alien race. Now I feel, God damn it.
No, that's not even the worst one with BioWare. This isn't in my notes, but Dragon Age, the setting of Dragon Age is Thetis, which is short for the Dragon Age setting.
Oh my God, it's like Aragon being dragon, but with an E. Fuck.
Exactly, it is Aragon levels of like rough draft and final.
I remember the specific day when I was thinking about the show Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, and it just came to me all at once. No, it didn't come to me. I think Stefan, friend of the pod, just came up to me and was like, dude, did you ever realize that Mantok, the Mind Taker, is just Mentos, the Fresh Maker? I had never fucking... It's like the FedEx Arrow. I mean, yeah, it's that was a lot.
I mean, Troll 2 taught us that Neilbog is goblin
right,
spelled backwards.
Yeah, exactly. It's it right in front of our face the whole fucking time. Alucard. Whatever. Yeah.
With the Rachni Queen, like in Mass Effect 2, they even had a thing where there's a character you talk to where if you spared her, she talks to you through that character and is like, hey, I'm still here. I'm going to show up next game. Don't worry. They didn't forget about me. And if you don't, then you hear like radio reports about like, this ominous alien creature has been attacking spaceships. It might pay off in the future. So like they dropped hints in Mass Effect 2 that this was going to pay off. And so your reward for all of that is that in Mass Effect 3, whether you spared or exterminated the Queen, the mission involving her plays out pretty much exactly the same. And your reward for this 3-game arc is some EMS points. The only thing that really changes is the setup. If you spared her, then the bad guys captured her and forcibly made her be a bad guy against her will. If you killed her, then the bad guys built a copy of her and the evil copy is fighting you now. Either way, it's the same thing with like the same output.
The illusion of choice.
Dude. It's like my one criticism of Dawn of War 2 and Dawn of War Retribution, I guess it's Retribution, the one I'm talking about, is that the game is a series of maps that you're fighting on. Almost all of them are more or less in the same row, where it's like you get to pick 1 from 3, 1 from 3, 1 from 3 as you go across the whole game. And they have reasons for you going there for whether you're playing as the human army, the Space Marine army, the orcs, the Tyranids, or the Chaos, or the Eldar. And so, like, the Orc campaign is literally the exact same maps that are just reused throughout the whole thing. Same maps, same fights, same stuff. They just changed out some of the equipment from one stage to the next. And it's just like, it would have been better if you just had like a different thing, like an easier mission with different stuff going on. But it's just the same thing. Like, I save the red guy, now the blue guy fights me. I save the blue guy, now the red guy fights me. Well, fuck me, man. Why am I even playing this?
And as I recall, that the Rachni fight in Mass Effect is fairly early on, too.
Yeah.
And then I believe that after you're done with that, they add to your percentage, and then I think you never hear from the Rachni again.
Yep.
Yeah, it is just like, that was one of the flattening things about the EMS score, too, is, it's like once you're done with somebody, it's just like throw them in the pile with the rest of it. It just becomes like a big flat number instead of like, it's very anonymizing instead of giving people a chance to shine or have it like actually meaningful. Like one of the magic tricks of the Mass Effect series is that it's a space opera where you never actually control a spaceship. Somehow just like 4 people on the ground with guns can be like the turning point in a giant battle. And that's like one of the things that they didn't manage to do that in the third one the way they did.
And also there's no opera. Give me some singers, man. Bugs Bunny with the horn hat.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. At least we have the Hanar Shakespeare. Maybe they have Hanar opera.
Yeah, I am the very model of a scientist Solarian. You know.
Oh, that is true. Yeah, one of the characters does sing Gilbert and Sullivan. I forgot about that.
I am the very model of a scientist Solarian.
Someone made a full version of that song, and it's kind of awesome. I recommend it. It's such a bummer about the Rachni too, because like they have such lore weight. Like the whole thing about the setup for the Krogan, and the Krogan are basically like the Rachni like ravage the universe, and they basically set up the Krogan as like shock troopers to fight them. And once the Rachni are pushed back, then the belief is like, the Krogan are now uncontrollable, so now we need the Genophage. So like they have a lot of lore importance in Mass Effect, and it's just such a bummer that like it kind of like it ends on such a, again, this is to bring in some Rachni lore, like it ends on kind of a sour note, with them. And it's just kind of a bummer. Yeah.
We touched on this earlier, but part of that didn't help was like, Mass Effect 2, it did a good job at having the ending react to your individual choices and feel very personalized, even if ultimately it did kind of have 2 endings there. It's like, you either save or destroy the station ultimately, but they made it feel really impactful by reacting to the stuff you did. So this wasn't out of nowhere. People they had built up this expectation. And then the third one, they fell short of what they had done in the past.
Yeah.
And I do have a section here about fan theories. Like we've mentioned before, there's this sort of bit of gamer psychology where the concept that the game that we didn't get is actually better and more real than the one we did. It was just denied its true power for some reason. People got really into talking about Mass Effect 3 like that. Like one thing was when Mass Effect 2 came out, there was a bit in one of the codexes about dark matter. And so people had this big fan theory that dark matter was going to be what Mass Effect 3 hinged on. And so when there was no mention of dark matter at all in Mass Effect 3, they went, aha, they must have saw our post on Reddit and changed it because they didn't want to have the ending called. And that's why it's so bad.
Oh, yeah. That's what happened.
A hostile part 3 situation.
Yeah. It's like the Silent Hill 4 circumcision theory. It's like, well, the fact that they didn't put any evidence for it is actually confirming the evidence that I have for it. It's like, I think that you're schizophrenic. That's what I think you are. You're right here. It says very much proto never be game over.
Yeah, because we alluded to indoctrination theory earlier, but this is the part I have to talk about it because that was kind of a fascinating output of all this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember watching some of the indoctrination theory videos back in the day, and I started rewatching one very recently, and the level of knots people tied themselves into it. Like the video I found is like piecing over assets in the game. What I love about the one I watched was like it was couching everything it says. Like, well, they did this because they deliberately wanted to send this message, or maybe it's because the game was under a rush and they needed to reuse the assets. Like every single one, it was like an asked and answer kind of thing. It must be the indoctrination, or more it's just the game was rushed and put out there, and all these things are just there, and we are finding meaning in nothing.
What is indoctrination theory?
Indoctrination theory was very similar to Never Be Game Over. It was the idea that, this isn't the real ending of Mass Effect 3. The bad guys, the Reapers, they have this ability called indoctrination where just exposure to them over time warps your thoughts and makes you sympathetic to them. And so they went, okay, what must have happened is that Commander Shepard has been indoctrinated. What we experienced was his indoctrination hallucination. And eventually they're going to release the update that's going to show us the real ending outside of it. I guess if you're ever familiar with people doing like a weird alternate reading on the ending of Minority Report, it's kind of like that. We're like, no, this ending couldn't possibly be the actual ending. It must be some sort of hallucination or something.
It's very much reminiscent of, I mean, not like, okay, it's maybe not reminiscent, but it does remind me of all of the completely insane fan theories that sprung up after the cancellation of PT, the Silent Hill teaser, because like there are people on Reddit right now frothing at the fucking mouth, telling anybody that the PT has nothing to do with Silent Hill. It was a completely different game, and it was just completely the fact that there was a trailer for the new Silent Hill that was plugged in to everything that happened in the game is totally circumstantial. They're like what they're trying to say is that it was just a tech demo for the Metal Gear Solid game that never came out. The thing that blows all of this up, whether it's indoctrination theory or any of those things where it's like, no, the company did this whole thing to fuck with us, is you have to ask, do you think that this ruthlessly profit-driven company would fuck over the ending of their trilogy to sell you a $5.99, $9.99 DLC pack with the real ending? No, I don't. I think that it was just a bad game made by people who were having a hard time with it.
I think it was also a little bit of cope too, whereas like people were trying to rationalize why this ending that a lot of people didn't like is actually brilliant. This is actually a really great ending. And it's because the child. Again, I'm going to sound like I'm out of my mind, because that was a lot of the way the rationale was with the indoctrination theory. Is like, okay, you see all the stuff with the children is actually the Reapers getting into Shepard's mind, and you see at the very, very end before he goes into the Crucible, that was, there's a moment where Shepard actually dies, and Shepard actually, hear me out on this one, don't walk away, is like that. Now here's the moment where he's being influenced, and there's a moment before you get to the very, very end where like there are these two characters that you see, Captain Anderson and the Elusive Man, and you have a situation where like they are both talking to him, and like people try to say that, okay, the Captain Anderson is the part of Shepard that isn't indoctrinated, and the Elusive Man is the part that is indoctrinated. Like, again, I'm not doing justice for how complicated this thing got, and the taffy pulls that people made for this thing. There's a character the fandom embraced called Marauder Shields. Mm-hmm. And so there's a moment in Mass Effect 3 where it's like this one Reaper Harbinger like jumps down and like hits this massive laser at Shepard and a bunch of the other guys, and the whole rest of the game is kind of like Shepard, like his armor's all jacked, he's like shuffling throughout the rest of the game. And what people say is like this is the point where Shepard is now being indoctrinated, where like he's been like incinerated. There's a couple of characters in front of him. There are a couple of these like grunt enemies called husks, and you can shoot a couple of them. And there's one generic enemy character called the Marauder, and there's one Marauder right before you go into the Crucible area who has, some characters have shields below them, like it'll shade their name and shields. Marauders don't have shields in the rest of the game. And so there's this one Marauder who does. And so they created a fan theory about this character that's actually not just the Marauder with the wrong thing on his name. He's actually a character named Marauder Shields. And Marauder Shields is actually, again, it all sounds like I know how I sound right now. And Marauder Shields is actually trying to save the universe because he's trying to kill Shepard before he integrates with the Reapers and gets indoctrinated. There's a whole section of the internet devoted, if you go to the fandom wiki of Mass Effect, there's a whole page devoted to Marauder Shields.
To quote friend of the pod Jaybrandstetter, "That's nice, honey. What else happened at school today?" What do you like? You can't say anything to any of that. That's again, if I had the soundboard, it would be playing "Log Off," because this is too fucking much, man. To a tiny degree, I've had people like wildly misinterpret my work, whether it's like jokes that I've told, where they like tie themselves in knots to find a way to make this joke racist or whatever, or to make it fit into their politics. Like, I've got a bumper sticker that says, I'm covered in bugs and I vote. And people were like mad because they were thinking that it was a comment on Democrats using dead people as part of their polls, and that's how they beat Trump. And this is clearly a pro-Trump. It's like, no, it's a sticker that implies that there's a whole section of the voter block that are just people covered in insects. That's it. That's the joke, is that it's weird. But this kind of thinking exists even for little cockroaches like me. When you're arguing with a delusional person, there are two delusional people. There's the person that you're fighting with, and there's you thinking that you're going to change them. Anyways, I don't think that any of that is real. I think they just made a game with a bad ending. Because, like, anything that would be like,
it's just cope.
You're right, it's just cope. But it's also just like, it would be such a jarring change of tone for the most heavy-handed, simplistic, jingoistic fucking writing. I mean, like, Mass Effect is good. I know that you liked it a lot, Kevin. I don't think it's a bad game. It is like good guys doing good guy stuff, bad guys doing bad guy stuff. You solve your problems with a gun, or you can be like coy and conniving. It is a game designed to be understood by 16-year-olds, right? And that's fine. That's totally fine. I like a lot of games that are like that. But the idea that the ending would suddenly become an art house head scratcher, it's like, no. Why would it suddenly become so abstract at the end? The whole game is about gun guy fighting crime in space. Why would they suddenly get really heady with it?
There's also that time when, like, you're seeing a lot of those, again, those like internet type theories where it's like, okay, Pokemon, after Ash leaves his house and Misty runs him over his bicycle, he's dead the whole time.
Fuck off. Oh my God. Ed and Nettie, dude, they were dead the whole time.
That was the exact what I was going to say
Rugrats,
too, man.
dead the whole time. Every show dead the whole... Shut up. Oh my God. It's baby's first fan theory. It's so fucking stupid. I want, like, give me the opposite of that. Give me a thing where they make reference from characters that have already passed. What if they're alive the whole time and everybody's crazy, like...
And there was an ending where Captain N got out of the video game and entered the real world, and it was the house from Home Alone. I saw it, but they don't air it again, but it really happened.
And then the character's name was Ben Drowned. I promise you this was real. Jesus God.
And he was playing Pokemon Black, not the Pokemon Black the Nintendo release, but the one where you put it in your GameCube and you turn it on to Lavender Town music made you go insane.
Did I? Okay, this, you've only listened to the pod for a year, so you might not have heard this story, but we actually solved it through fan listeners of the pod. When I was a kid, I got a bootleg Pokemon game called Pokemon Diamond that was years and years and years before Pokemon Diamond ever came out. And I'd never seen it before, but it was like ugly or stupid Pokemon, but you could give them guns and they were evil. And it was baffling. And like, I was just... The town was called Vagina Town. There was like Penisville. It was like bizarre. And I had no idea what I was doing, but I can't remember the actual thing, but it's actually a kind of an infamous mistranslation of a different Pokemon style game that they just made into a physical ROM and sold as a Game Boy cartridge.
If I remember right, there's Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Jade. There is a similar Pokemon themed game that involves, like, you call monsters.
Yes.
And a bunch of guys in the early 2000s, I think one or two guys, like, they made a really crude fan translation, basically tacked on a Pokemon brand to it, and put this out on the internet. One of the covers was just basically a ripoff of a character from Princess Mononoke. I think that was on the Pokemon Jade one. Telefang.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking up here. Interesting.
A shameless plug for my show. We did Pokemon ROM hacks and fan games. If you like that, look up Pokemon Snakewood.
Okay.
This was a ROM hack of, which one was this? So many of them were fire red. So this might be your fire red hack. It was like early 2000s, like Newgrounds style emo girl making her own zombie themed Pokemon game. And it was this one person, she made it herself, and it's kind of notoriously broken. It was all like, okay, what if Pokemon, but they were all zombies kind of thing. It's an incredibly weird game. It's incredibly broken in places, but I think that might be up your alley.
Yeah, Kaitai, Denju, Telefang, and and it has monster stuff with the Vagina Town in here. That's for sure. That was bizarre. Yeah, I remember. I don't know what happened to it. Anyways, take it away, Jay. Enough about Vagina Town.
I think we've emphasized that the gamers, well, you do not have to hand it to them or how they reacted to this, but a part of it is that the people at BioWare did misrepresent the ending of the game. I dug up some quotes from some of them. So I know I've been doing a bunch of talking from the notes. Would one of you like to read this quote from executive producer Casey Hudson?
Kevin, why don't you take it away?
With the ending in Mass Effect 2, there were so many different variables and possibilities for the outcome and what could happen. It is at the same type of complexity built into the ending of Mass Effect 3. Yeah, and I'd say much more so, because we had the ability to build the endings out in a way that we don't have to worry about eventually tying them back together somewhere. This story arc is coming to an end with this game. That means the endings can be a lot more different. At this point, we're taking into account so many decisions that you've made as a player and reflecting a lot on that stuff. It's not even in any way like the traditional game endings, where you can say how many endings there are or whether you got ending A, B, or C. Wow, this did not age terribly well.
Yeah, and like it calls to mind the ending of specifically Fallout New Vegas, which has like a distinct number of endings depending on who you side with and the friends that you make and things like that, where there's like tons of different bizarre endings, and some of them are like really esoteric that people are like still figuring out the complicated series of choices you have to make before you get this very specific ending. But the game also concludes with like vignettes of every major decision that you made throughout the entire game, and like the downriver implications of the things that you did. So if you helped one town over the next 10 years, you see how they prosper. If you killed one farmer, you can see how like it caused this other farmer's land to get bigger or whatever. And like, for what it's worth, that honestly made me feel like I made interesting decisions throughout the game. It made them feel impactful. And you don't really get that at all with this. You just get the series, like the 1, 2, or 3, different colors, and then roll credits. In the DLC, they expand on it, but it's like I wanted this to be the button, but you didn't.
So that quote about them saying it's not going to be ending A, B, or C, and then it came out with basically
literally A, B, or C.
In their defense, it wasn't A, B, or C. It was red, blue, or green. So that's different.
Yeah, it was R, G, or B.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's why I opened this whole saga with an invoice from a cupcake company, because somebody took that to heart, and that's why there was all those cakes with A's, B's, or C's. And also, like, these are bespoke handmade cupcakes. Those aren't like stencils or pre-made. You can tell these are handmade letters. Each one is a little different. So they got like a good cupcake company to make these. And it was by a poster from the Russian BioWare forums named Jandira. And they included this little message here. Winslow, would you like to read the message?
I've spent the last 100 hours baking many different varieties of cakes, pies, cookies, and other desserts. Please choose from one of these 3 similar but differently colored cupcakes. Jandira. Yeah.
How many were there again?
There was about 400 altogether. They got like 134 of each one. So.
Good gracious.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Gosh, yeah. And also, there's an interesting thing to know about this, too, is that there was still an official BioWare forums at the time. They were of the pedigree of game developer that was old enough to have an original, like, official forum that was still running at this time. And only be open a couple more years. They'd close it in 2016. I imagine that this stunt that they got and, like, the general backlash probably didn't help with that. Like, if you go there now, the only one that's still online is the one for the Old Republic MMO, because I'm assuming a different company works on it, or they probably have some contract or something. It's an MMO.
Yeah.
Man, that reminds me how, like, I still remember, again, I didn't play Mass Effect 3 until many years after this, but I remember being on Reddit at the time when this happened, and I remember the week like about a week, I think it was about a week after this game came out that you started seeing this burbling on the subreddits about how mad people were getting. And like, I just like did some side research in preparation for this show of just looking at like old GameFAQs posts and finding a couple places where like you can see the trajectory where it's like, yeah, I'm really super excited. Mass Effect 3 is coming out. Mass Effect 3 is like, I'm starting to get in this game. They're like, oh my God, this ending is terrible. Like you can see an arc going on through the forum and the thread posts.
I remember hanging out with my buddy Noah, who was fucking stoked to play the Callisto Protocol. He's a guy who just likes fucking monsters and splatters and ripping and tearing, and like that's his bread and butter. He loves that shit. And I remember I was like crashing at his place because I was doing a convention in his area and I was sleeping on his fucking miserable couch that he was like, you can sleep on my couch, but the couch had the middle portion where you can put your drinks that's a hard slab of wood, so like the small of my back and my ass is on this rock of wood while I'm depressed into the other. I was just like doing a back bend while sleeping. Anyways, he locks in and plays the Callisto Protocol until like 3 a.m, and like, dog, I just could see the joy like just fall from his eyes as he's like,
oh man,
it's like he's like, oh, this game's really hard, and then he's like, oh man, I feel like I should have gotten that, like that fight, I hit all the right buttons but it just didn't work, and then by the end of it he was just like, and over the next few days of staying there I just watched him just like, you know, when the thing that you were looking forward to turns out to be a disappointment and you just look out the window a lot, you know, you just have to think empty thoughts for a while until you can find something else to fill your cup, you know. No thanks.
There was a thing where when they officially closed it down, the official explanation was, well, we have social media now. That's where our fans are. We're meeting them there. We don't really need the forums anymore. But you can find articles where they interview people who worked at BioWare, like David Yater, one of the writers. At the time, this article is from 13 years ago, where he's just saying, like, yeah, I don't use the forums anymore because it's so hostile there and people are so negative, which, you know, it's like, I get how that could be intimidating for somebody. I see why companies don't really do this anymore because you don't want to be responsible for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's you do not have to give them anything, you know, like.
Yeah, it's like, and the other part of that is like, you don't want to create an echo chamber where there's just a bunch of people who are pissed off, who are already pissed off, and are reinforcing their vitriol and just getting themselves madder and madder and madder. And so much of the internet is just that now, and I can see the rationale for BioWare wanting to shut
and it's
that
so
down.
much more extreme on the forums, because I think that like all forums being surrounded by like people with the same interest, the most negative things are going to be the ones that stick the most to the comments, and they are the most difficult things to remove because it's easier to hold on to a bad thought than it is to hold on to a good thought. That you just end up with there's this band called Drought Year, and they have an album called All Symbols Are Swastikas, which is just about like anything that brings people together will eventually be the weapon that kills them, it's a very interesting record. But I'm starting to think all forums are Kiwi farms. Like if you put people together on the internet, even if it's just like a crocheting group, eventually there's going to be people that are like, well, I'm a white nationalist who's into crocheting, and then that's the fucking topic of conversation. You know, it's going to go on and on and on.
On a long enough timeline, every forum is a Nazi bar. You know?
Yes, exactly that. It just takes time.
Yeah, like as somebody who didn't read them or use them, my conception of the BioWare forums was just every now and then just a completely unhinged post would be screen capped from there and spread around. Like one of the infamous ones was like somebody was like, hey, I'm a big fan of Tali, so I was wondering, what do you think her sweat would be like? Here's my theory on the chemical composition of Tali's sweat. And then he just did like multiple pages of like organic chemistry diagrams breaking down the theory of what Tali would smell like based on what chemicals Corian sweat would contain. Like,
I don't like there people would do that now ironically, because like hyper horniness is like this ironic thing, which is very funny among Gen Z being like the least horny generation, also being the horniest online, or at least in their ironic horniness. But back then, that shit was done in earnest. That guy was like, I did the stoichiometry. I ran the Punnett squares to figure out what her sweat would smell like.
Keeps them out of trouble, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, that guy eventually ended up on some lists.
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, and anything of this too is like it's been long enough, and BioWare as a studio has seen enough like layoffs and exoduses and failures and such. Like people have gotten to talk more about this in depth without having to worry about continuing to work there. And like a quote that came out from one of the big Anthem postmortems that from Kotaku was they talked a little bit about BioWare magic, which was this internal concept at the studio. I can read it here. It goes, within the studio, there's a term called BioWare magic. It's a belief that no matter how rough a game's production might be, things will always come together in the final months. The game will always coalesce. It happened on the Mass Effect trilogy, on Dragon Age Origins, and on Dragon Age Inquisition. Veteran BioWare developers like to refer to production as a hockey stick. It's flat for a while, and then it suddenly jolts upward. Even when a project feels like a complete disaster, there's a belief that with enough hard work and enough difficult crunch, it'll all come together.
Yeah.
And I think that is another thing, too, is they are that very old school style of game dev where they're just like, haha, you lost 20 pounds making this game.
You sleep under your desk. So. Yeah, the crunch is... We are not equipped and we don't have the time to explain how endemic crunch is, but like it's the reason that games industry is what it is because gamers will never punish the industry for what it does.
And for a long time, especially at this point, like this was almost celebrated. Yep. And like it was like I think about like Rockstar. Rockstar has the Rockstar and like Rockstar North have this similar kind of mentality. It's like, okay, we've created this gaming masterpiece, and all it cost was guys working 80 hour days, for like 12 days a week or whatever. And
they're salaried. Those guys are salaried, so those 8 hours, they're not getting anything extra for that. They might get a bonus at the end of the year, but like. That $1 billion that Rockstar made in the first day of Grand Theft Auto 5, that didn't go necessarily to the people that made the game. It went to the company, and it went to the shareholders.
And if they leave early because the work culture is really, really bad, they get their name taken off the credits.
They get their name taken off the credits, and they get blacklisted from the fucking entire industry. So, yeah. Go indie. That's all I can say.
So the gamers are mad, and understandably so. And so now we have sort of the fallout of this. Mass Effect 3, it came out originally in March of 2012, and then they announced the extended edition in April, which we will go into a little bit. But basically, the extended edition was them going, okay, we're going to release free downloadable content for the game that is going to add on to the endings. We're not going to change what happens in them, but we're going to like make more stuff happen in it to make them set up. Because that's part of it too, is they're just very abrupt. Like there's one part where it's just like your ship is in flight trying to outrun an explosion, and you don't really know why they're flying or by themselves, but they're just doing it for the scene. Now they were like, okay, we're going to add scenes that will explain that. We're going to fix up some of the complaints people have had. We're going to do, this is like our do-over almost. Like we're going to do a special edition.
Yeah, I mean, like that's what I've heard is that the DLC does add some interesting little buttons to the end. That it's just like it's the same thing with like Fallout 3, where it's like the stupidest possible ending that is like so bad that that the people that wrote the game were sitting around going like, we're not really going to do this, right? Like this is so stupid, right? And then they added out the DLC, and then the DLC makes it so you can play the game unlimited after the conclusion because they allow you to survive the ending. Just like it's just very frustrating. But H-Bomber guy has already talked about that 10 years ago. So
this is an impressive turnaround. They announced it in April and it came out June 26, 2012. So this took like 2 months of development for them to do all this. Like they had to get like the voice actors back to do new lines and stuff. Like, and they were already crunching to do the DLC as is. So like this was on top of the existing workload. They're doing this to turn it around. So they did brush. This was kind of unheard of. Like I don't recall this ever happening before where there was so much outcry about something online that the studio was like, okay, we're going to change it right now. We're sorry.
Yeah. I think that we're kind of in the age. It's funny because we're in the age of outrage, but we're also in the age of outrage not really meaning anything. And this is like, maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like one of the last times that like gamer outrage was shocking and it elicited change. Because right now, outrage is everywhere for everything all the time. I don't know. It just doesn't strike me as like that it moves the needle for anybody anymore.
The only other example I can think of, and this happens well after this one, is like the James Gunn firing. I think is probably the closest I can think of, where it's like a bunch of people brought up like a bunch of internet dudes brought up like a bunch of old tweets that James Gunn did, and Disney fired him, and then eventually brought him back. That's probably the closest I can think of. And I guess we talked about Star Wars before. I guess some have argued like the massive course correction that the Rise of Skywalker versus The Last Jedi might have been like, or even the Snyder Cut is probably another example of that. Yeah, fine. It's like, fine. You've been complaining a lot. Fine. Here's your fucking Snyder Cut kind of thing.
Yeah, I just meant in the gaming world. But yeah, all of those are for sure. All of those do track for sure.
Yeah, and I agree. I can't think of any other gaming specific ones that did that.
It's just such a fucking stupid way to interact with art. To throw a tantrum that you like the Mona Lisa's stupid because I don't know why she's smiling. It's like, motherfucker. Like, come on, man. Like, that's so dumb.
Listen, why is Rosebud his sled? That doesn't make any sense. Here's this elaborate thing about Marauder Shields. Like, says this about about Rosebud.
Character named Marauder Shields.
Look, art is like a hamburger. If you don't like it, you just send it back to the kitchen and tell them to do it again until it comes back right. It's that simple. Bing bong.
The idea of treating artists as service workers is, it's what reality is, but it is very funny that it's like, art is like inextricably linked to morality and emotion and history and culture and all of these things as like this. It's like the one most abstract thing that we have, but treating it the same way that people treat fucking McDonald's is just. It is like the knock-on effects of a highly consumerist society. You can never really predict all of them.
Yeah, and so in addition to little changes, like now they explain why your spaceship isn't flying with the other ones and why it gets caught in the explosion and stuff. The big thing that it does is it adds a new fourth ending, where now in addition to those other ones, now you could just choose not to participate in any of the endings entirely, which damns the galaxy to another cycle of extermination, but it allows the species that comes after us to win because we get to preserve all our knowledge for them. So it's like, I feel like if they wanted to do like a weird kind of cosmic option for an ending, I think that one works a little better. The idea of like, losing the battle but winning the war on the long scale, like that's kind of interesting. They don't really do anything with it. It's just kind of they're like, yeah, I'm gonna throw all this away. Why not? Like they don't really. It's still the ending Tron 5000 where you just pick between these options.
That's really bad. I didn't know that.
Yeah, because the whole thing about the way the way you go into the endings in Mass Effect is like you have they call, I believe they call in the Phantom the Star Child.
Yeah,
is the kid, the projection of the kid. And you talk to the Star Child, it's like, okay, you go to the red door, you go to the green door, you go to the blue door, and you walk Shepard up to one of them, and he will trigger a cutscene where he shoot. I can't remember if you have to start the shooting. I know there's a point where like if you walk far enough, you can't walk back, which I remember being a pet peeve when I played it. But like, there's a point where you can go and like you shoot one particular column and it triggers the ending.
You shoot it?
Yeah, it's literally that. Like you literally just shoot like a column and it triggers the ending. But the one that Jay mentioned they add is like you can literally, before you go up to one of the columns, you can just shoot the Star Child. And he's like, fine. Cuts, everyone dies, and you cut the like I guess the far future, and it's Liara, the one character, is like a hologram. And says, if you're hearing this message, it means we were all killed, and here's how to stop the Reapers, I guess, you know?
That would be cool if it was done by somebody that was cooler than BioWare. Like, I like a bleak ending, but I don't like that, you know?
Yeah, like the people who made Soma could do something interesting with that, but I don't trust BioWare
so wait, see, one of my distinct memories from this, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that like, no matter which ending you pick, there's no like good ending. And so like, what's wrong? What's the bad thing about destroying all inorganic life?
I guess maybe part of it is just that you sacrifice Shepard to do it. Is maybe I could see maybe it being from a fandom perspective why you might be mad. Like there's no good ending where you survived originally. Now there is like sort of an Easter egg ending where it implies that Shepard lived.
Kevin, you might know. Is which one of the endings is the one where it's like people live, but we shut down interstellar travel so everybody's trapped in the stars forever?
I think that's the one where you destroy the Reapers, because the whole lore. Again, I can't remember this one. It's been a while since I played it, but like I know that because the whole thing in the game is like the interstellar travels. Maybe this thing's called mass relays, which were like, they were created by an ancient progenitor race called the Protheans, or actually they're made by the Reapers, I believe is the idea. And the Protheans were erratic. I'm not going to get too much into Mass Effect lore, but like there's a whole thing. I believe that when you do the destroy ending that kills the Reapers, it destroys the mass relays too.
I remember that being the drawback of like, well, I want to kill my enemy, but I also, that also damns the entire, all life in the galaxy to just being alone. But I don't know.
Yeah. I know the other thing too is like there are non-organic races. So like there's the Geth. And depending on how you play out Mass Effect 3, there are things you can do early on where you can just exterminate all the Geth. If you decide to make the Geth survive, it eradicates all the Geth, and it eradicates at least one of your party members who is also a synthetic being. So I guess that's the
Legion.
Well, Legion and EDI.
Right.
EDI is also, I believe, killed too.
Legion was the best fucking character in the game because it's an evil robot that I actually liked. But I think we don't have to get into that.
So that's actually a good mindset for this next part, because there were some other shortcomings that fans complained about with the endings that they touched up. And I think a great sort of example of that is with another one with the character Tali, who I mentioned before, who's another popular fan character. And she was there was a bit of an outrage about her character in the ending, because the premise of her race is that they have to wear full body spacesuits all the time because they don't have an immune system anymore. And so we spend the entire series not knowing what Quarians look like under their suit. And that's kind of like an intentional sort of point of curiosity, like where they intentionally make sure even when you romance Tali and like you get to partner off with her, you don't get to actually see what she looks like under the thing. It's just something the commander sees. So in Mass Effect 3, if you play your cards right, spent the entire trilogy pursuing her, your reward is that you get to see what she looks like under her suit. And the payoff for all of that was just a crudely edited stock photo. Like on the left here is the stock photo, and on the right is what Tali originally was officially looked like under her outfit. Just like they chopped off two of this model's fingers. She still's wearing nail polish. These aliens still wear nail polish, even though they can't, do anything under their suits. But then and they like turned her eyes white. This is embarrassing.
I'm like at a loss for words. Like this is so bad. Like the gift was wrapped perfectly for them. The character is interesting because you don't know, and that's what makes it cool. The question mark, and they're like, yeah, what's cooler than a question mark? A babe with 3 fingers and some shit on her face. You know that the people that made the game clearly saw that, like, having a bunch of bipedal humanoid creatures as your primary alien races is a little... I mean, granted, that's basically all of your party members because that's how the rigging would work for the entire game, and it would be way too much work to have, like, a centaur race. But they have the Hanar, and they have some other people that you can't recruit that have more interesting shapes and stuff like that. And the Rachni and all that. But it's almost everybody's bipedal. So you know that they, like, recognize that there could be interesting aliens that aren't humanoid. And then they just give you a stock photo of just, like, some gal. It's so bad.
Yeah, it's like the packaging for like a dollar store douche. Like it's that type of stock photo too. This does look like a love interest.
Jesus, I was gonna say it's a packaging for the Walgreens nice brand of like a cologne. This is their version of it. Oh boy.
What's such a bummer about this, in my opinion, is because I believe you see this after you complete. If you romance Tali and you complete the quest line, there's a whole thing, and I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure it's before this moment where I think they do it a lot better. So there's a whole setup. The whole thing is, I'm going to try not to get too much into Mass Effect lore, but the whole setup is that the Geth, again, this android race were created by the Quarians, is what Talia is. They eventually... They rebel and they force the Quarians off their planet called Rannoch. And the whole concept of them throughout the rest of the game is that they're part of this nomadic like space group of spaceships that just goes around the universe called the Migrant Fleet. And there's a setup near the end of the game where you can have that, like you go on Rannoch and you have to make a choice. And there's a number of different things you can do to set up this choice where you choose to either eradicate the Geth, eradicate the Quarian, and then there's like a specific thing you have to do where you can allow them to live in harmony, which I didn't do. I didn't figure out. There's actually a decision you make later on, which involves Legion. But this is a really beautiful moment, one of the coolest moments in the game. There are a lot of good set pieces in this game, not for nothing. Where there's this whole scene where the Geth descend upon the Migrant Fleet and they eradicate it, and like you see Tully standing on the planet Rannoch, where her race has never been able to come back to, and the migrant fleet is being destroyed above her. They're like burning in the atmosphere, and she looks up, and you don't see her face, but she takes her mask off, and she puts her arms out and just drops down a cliff, and it's like such a powerful scene. Like, it's really cool, and it's like really interesting, and like they did that, and then they did this.
Yeah. Again, like they snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, you know? Like they had a good thing and then they defucked the whole. I mean, it's just a waste.
Yeah, it's like they didn't even try. It's just like, well, elves are hot, right? Like, it's like, guys, you could have made her skin translucent or something. Like, that would have been a neat twist. Like, oh, well, they're never exposed to sunlight in their suit all the time, so they're just like a cave fish under there or something. That would have been neat. But
I have a fan theory, because wasn't Miranda added to the game in the second one?
Yeah, she shows up in the second one.
And like, she's a conventional dark-haired babe in like a skin-tight suit. And I think that they added her in because they saw all of like how horny all of the players were for the alien races. They were like, you guys really want to fuck the fish people? What the fuck? We're going to give you like a regular babe because I'm tired of going through the forums and seeing everybody fucking these squids. Why don't you like, it's the same thing where like game devs will clearly put in characters that are like, somebody else is going to draw her naked and I'm going to put her in my game. It's like, that's got to be why they did it. I don't know.
And so this is also kind of emblematic of the changes because they do update it to a bespoke piece of art, but it's still pretty disappointing. It's still just a human basically with weird eyes. Like, yeah. She's got the white contacts and she's got a nose and she's got lips and it's like, okay, I guess you still get to fuck her the way that you fuck normal people. Maybe her vagina's sideways. I don't know. I don't want to be gross, but like, what the fuck else is it going to be? What makes her a completely different race? I do think a weird part of this, too, is like a part of Bioware getting really fandom pilled around this time is they would design characters based around them being able to be cosplayed. Like that was something they would consider character designs, is people dressing up like them. So I wonder if a part was like, oh, well, I know people are going to want to cosplay as Tali because she's popular. So we can't make it be too complicated or hard. Like, wonder if that was like a decision someone made.
We wouldn't want it to be too interesting. Like the coolest cosplay I've ever seen was somebody cosplayed as one of the monsters from Silent Hill Origins, which was not a great game, but the monsters are really cool. And it's two legs on the ground, and then it's got these huge like meat sacks for arms, and it's leaning forward and like kind of knuckle walking on its meat sacks. But then coming out of its back is a woman is like, looks like it's been like taped to the back of the man of the meat monster, and like her legs are just kind of sticking out like antenna. And it was a couple that did this he's walking around with his girlfriend, I imagine, on his back. And it was like this really complicated cosplay that required two people. It was dope. Konami didn't plan for that monster to be cosplayed, and so it was cool.
No, I agree. Like once I saw, I think it was like for Ubisoft for like the new like the Watch Dogs game set in London, they had like a cosplay guide for their characters. Like, oh honey, nobody's ever cosplaying a Watch Dog character. Are you kidding me?
Also, like the fun of cosplay is how organic it is, and it comes from the fans. It doesn't feel right when it's coming from the top, you know?
Right.
Yeah. With all these complaints, is worth acknowledging that like they were able to give basically every major character or party member some kind of or major divergence. Like at least everything got acknowledged in some way. It might be disappointing, but like the Rachni did show up. You do get to determine what happens between the Quarians and the Gath. Like they did let you resolve all these things. And like we mentioned earlier, 2012 was the year that Telltale's The Walking Dead came out. This was a year where we were really into talking about player choice and consequences in games. And this was kind of like the poster child of how things used to be in a weird way, where this was a AAA game trying really hard to be reactive, but ultimately just because of how math works, they can't do exponential growth forever. They have to eventually start condensing.
Right. Yeah.
The game does end on a more positive note, though, because they did release some downloadable content after this. In a weird way, the DLC was kind of a better capstone on the series because it gave people what they wanted. There was two big ones. There was Leviathan, which is about the origin of the Reapers. So it's great. Like if you want to know more about the Reapers and why they're all fucked up, why they're like that, basically, this is you get to find that out. You get to meet the people who made.
We got to get you to write copy for this shit, man, because that's so funny. Leviathan, the origin of the Reapers, an insight into why they're like that. Why are the Reapers such a fucking bitch, dude? I was hanging with the Reapers the other day. I was hanging with the Reapers, and she's like being so fucking weird. Like, we just hung out, and she's being weird to me now. It's like she's a Reaper.
We get it. If you turn a person into a robot, you could do violence them and still get a T rating. Get over it.
Yeah.
So like a tell-all. Yeah. Oh, we're finally getting the inside look at the Reapers. Ooh, I get all the dirt.
Finally. Let's find out who the Reapers have been fucking.
And then the other piece of DLC was called Citadel, and it's literally a huge going away party where it's the characters going, all right, gang, before we take on the final boss, let's have one big last party, woo! And it's like it's kind of like the character. If you were here to watch all your little virtual buddies have fun and bounce off each other, this is your send off. This is where you get to have a party together. There's references to like in jokes from throughout the series. It's very reactive to what you do. Like when I played, it was just me and Garrus getting drunk and shooting beer bottles together. So see, like everybody can be up there shooting stuff.
Oh my god, you really can! Holy fuck!
Oh,
because like that's like one of the fan favorite scenes is the Garrus. Garrus is like one of the favorite side characters in the game, and there's a scene where you can like go to this special spot on the Citadel, which is like this space station city. And you can like throw empty beer bottles in the air and like take turns shooting them. You don't actually shoot them. It's just like a cutscene. It doesn't really explain why you're using live fire sniper rifles in the Citadel, shooting not mass reactive, but Mass Effect rounds, which we should explain. All of the guns in this game, at least in the first one, have unlimited ammo because in the guns, there's a cube of like tungsten or something, and the Mass Effect is this machine thing inside your gun that accelerates a few atoms of that cube of tungsten to just under light speed, and it functions like a bullet, and so it's just that. And so you don't find bullets for your guns. You're just everything in the first game was running off of reload. They added ammo into the next game, so it kind of spoiled the whole idea. But why you're using these fancy ass, extremely powerful guns in functionally like a city park is funny.
You have to understand he's a Spectre. You know, he needs to have that right to just do whatever he wants in case the galaxy is in trouble. If that means a couple people get shot when him and his buddy get drunk and shoot some bottles, I mean, that's the cost of freedom. It's worked for the galaxy.
He's got to blow some steam, man. We have to get him a pontoon boat. All of that to say, there's this cool scene where you're hanging out with Garrus, the bug man, and you're shooting these bottles, and it's just kind of this relationship thing where you've like spent, playing these games real time with Garrus and getting to know him, the things that he believes and his values and stuff like that. And then with Citadel, the scene where you're shooting bottles on the top of the fucking Citadel, it's like fucking there's like 15 people there. Like imagine like like the most romantic date that you could have with your lover and then add 15 people to that. It's like a flash mob.
Yeah, it's like someone didn't tell you that they were bringing their softball team with them to this game. It's just like, geez, this is where BioWare's downward trajectory begins. Because in September of that year, 2012, the original co-founders of BioWare leave the company and retire from game development entirely. One of them went on to become like an entrepreneurship guy, and the other one was just like, I'm going to retire, just do what I want. Like, so... Yeah, this is when I think they kind of saw the writing on the wall with the new owners, and we're like, well, we finished up. We got what we wanted later.
I don't blame them. Shit was not going to get better after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of signs from what we see in the final product where it was like it was a good time to get out of Dodge.
Very much, yeah. This quote has strong Winslow energy if you want to read it.
I've reached an unexpected point in my life where I no longer have the passion that I once did for the company, for the games, and for the challenge of creation. Oof, man.
No, it's like despair and despair.
I mean, but it is funny to read that in an upbeat tone. It's also like, man, what you're describing is, that's a thing that happens to all of us. I don't go as crazy into like music and games as the way that I used to. I'm also an old man, but like, dog, you might just be like experiencing some anhedonia brought on by stress.
You have spent half a decade focused on the same story in like constant state of crunch. Maybe like, yeah.
My outside background is working in nonprofits, and there's a certain level of like, people are driven by the passion and like because they believe in the stuff, and eventually you get a point where it's like, so a bunch of people end up having that point where it's like, pay's not great. I'm working really long hours. I'm trying to do this whole thing, and I can only do so much, and I kind of need to move from this. Like I've seen that happen before in this field.
Oh yeah, especially in the nonprofits.
I
the
totally
most
relate
thankless
to this.
job in the world, like literally thankless. You're a nonprofit.
So now we can just sort of start the little slide whistle of the review scores. Yeah, the next Dragon Age does well, but 2017 is when they try and restart Mass Effect with the new trilogy with Mass Effect Andromeda. And again, they're just making more mistakes at this point. They wasted years trying to do like a No Man's Sky or Starfield style procedurally generated universe, which nobody goes to Mass Effect for that. They go to that for like funny space aliens they can hang out with and shoot stuff with.
I'm really surprised that it got a 72 on Metacritic, because like that game, it was like a punchline for how bad it looked. I'm like, I mean, granted, you have to grade it on the curve because every AAA game that comes out, there's like a good half of all reviewers are like, it's great, 10 out of 10. Please let me review your next game. But like, I would love to see the breakdown for what the fans said about Andromeda and not the paid critics say.
I mean, speaking for myself, I played through Mass Effect Andromeda to completion. I played through this whole game, and I never thought that the facial animations were that bad. I think I got it well after I think all of this stuff had been patched out anyway. But like, I think the biggest issue as a Mass Effect fan that I had with Andromeda is like one, it's like, it's somehow more and less. Like, for example, like, Mass Effect established all of these like interesting races, like, and like different cultures and different ideas and stuff. And like Andromeda, for all of it, like it introduces ultimately 2 new alien races, none of which are terribly interesting. And like its biggest thing was like it borrowed way too much from that like Assassin's Creed style of gameplay, where it's like, okay, imagine this big open world where there are all these icons you need to knock off. Now imagine if there were 5 of those you have to clear out. And like, that's the whole game. And like, there are some like, plot decisions. There is something a little bit analogous to the Rachni one from the first Mass Effect, where it's like, okay, you found this ancient alien AI, and this ancient alien AI wants you to kill it. And like tells you, I'm going to be a bad thing. You should destroy me right now. Like says that flat out. And you can decide whether or not you want to comply with that, or if you want to integrate it with your ship's computer. And what's really fun about that decision is that it doesn't matter because they're not making more Mass Effects.
Yeah. I mean, it's the nature of games at this period, and to a certain degree now, I don't play a lot of AAA games, is that like a game used to be a nice cold can of Dr. Pepper, and now they have emptied that Dr. Pepper into a full bathtub and told you, we've now given you a bathtub full of Dr. Pepper. And that's not what that is. You've just given me weird bathwater. Like, there's so much shit and so little game. I don't want to collect anything. I'm not a fucking magpie.
Look, there's literally a moment at the end of Mass Effect Andromeda where it's like this alien race you're fighting. They've won again, because we had the Geth. Now we have the Ket. You see, they sound differently, and they're not robots, but they're like, basically faceless enemies. And there's a whole thing near the end of the game, at least the ending I got, which is, I don't know if they're different endings, but where like literally there's like one of the representatives of the Ket like looks at you and literally does like the like equivalent of like taking your hat off and like throwing it on the ground and stomping it and walking away and setting up for a sequel that, again, I'm being very, 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 I cannot understate this, will never happen.
Yeah. Not only will it never happen because this was such a poorly reviewed game, but because companies don't make games anymore. They just make live service things that you have to pay for forever.
And you were right. There was the motion capture animation they had done was incompatible with the engine at first. So things weren't lined up perfectly. They patched it to get a little better, but it was still kind of, especially for the time, like this was a couple years after The Witcher 3 had come out. And it was kind of like, the bar has been raised, guys. This doesn't really look like The Witcher 3. So yeah. But the real laughingstock was Anthem, which came out in 2019. You can't even play this game. They shut down the servers earlier this year. It was online for like 6 years.
Yeah, it was bad. And it's also just like, I don't know, man. It's so bloodless and it's just so not interesting. You know, we just, as of this recording, just released an episode about Tubor, which is this dog shit game that lasted a split second. And it's just so funny when like you can tell that somebody's job is just like, all right, give me a bunch of designs. You got a bunch of different designs, be creative. And then you have like, all right, we got Bug Lady, we got Big Guy, we got Little Guy. We have like bizarre, just bad characters, man. It's just all boring. Not a lot to say about Anthem.
Yeah, just nobody can even really describe what it's about. Just like it's basically just copying Destiny, except you have jetpacks. Like the visual language they're using, the iconography, it all just screams, we have Destiny at home. Like nothing about this feels like BioWare at all. Like they have just fully become a label for EA at this point.
And I recall, like when people realized what this game was, like my experience is not the same as other people's. Like I remember seeing the internet enthusiasm just fell off a cliff. Like nobody cared. And all the people who would have been into to a new BioWare game were like, Anthem offered nothing of what they liked and what they were interested in, and like that there was no longer the audience wasn't there. And again, if you're trying to compete with these larger live service type games like your Destinies, like your Fortnites and things like that, like you're chasing after them. And like I remember a time where you could walk into GameStop and like buy a copy of Anthem for $5, and now like it's not even worth the disc it's printed on now because the servers are dead.
Yeah. It's just shovelware.
Really, yeah. Just and also they only released Act 1. It was supposed to be one of those live service games that gets years of updates. And we just got Act 1. We never got Act 2 or Act 3 or any of that. The Cataclysm never ended, I guess. We're just stuck in Cataclysm mode. Yeah, like one of the quotes I found from the reviews, it says, one thing's for certain, on Anthem, BioWare's magic ran out. And yeah, this is like where the write-up on this is really good. That's where you can find the origin of that BioWare magic story. But yeah, they shut it down January 12th of this year. You can't even play Anthem anymore. It is gone.
R.I.P.
The last thing they put out was in 2024, they put out a new Dragon Age, the Veilguard, which reviewed fine, average of 76 on Metacritic. But it had, according to EA, it engaged approximately 1.5 million players during the quarter, which was about half of what they expected. So again, this is also further muddled by the fact that EA was doing a subscription service. So like that, they're also kind of cannibalizing their own sales. Just, again, doesn't really seem like they're setting them up to succeed, but also they're not really doing anything to rise to the occasion.
Yeah, and it's also just like, I don't know, man. 76 is not terribly good, and it's the thing that EA has done so many times is that like, well, we expected this game to make $3 billion because that was the biggest number that we could think of at the time. It didn't, which means that it is a failure, and we will no longer be pursuing it. And it's like, make it so it makes money, but makes like cool things and puts them out into the world, and more people are interested, more people get involved, and more people will know about you. There's like, it's like the times where there was like, we're going to make a new Assassin's Creed every year. And they're like, are any of them going to be good? And they're like, we're going to make a new one every year. And it's like, hey, why would I be invested in what you're making?
I've never played Dragon Age Veilguard. But what's really incredibly frustrating about this is it's a lot more of what we saw when it came to Mass Effect 3 and Anthem, where it's like Jason Schreier a couple of years ago did a really interesting article for Bloomberg. This was back in last year in June 11, 2025. And he did a whole deep dive into the development of the Veilguard. And I'm paraphrasing here, but basically like they started trying to make it like another deep story-driven game like the other Dragon Age games were and like Mass Effect. And then somewhere in the middle of development, the executives at EA got the idea, like, what's really popular right now is these always online live service games. And they basically told them to change midstream to like, it needs to be an always online live service game, like particularly like a Destiny, I think, where it's like, you don't need to engage with the narrative. You just need to be able to go on online multiplayer with a bunch of people and like do raids and stuff like that and do season passes and stuff. And so they had to basically stop midstream and focus on this model. And then somewhere along the lines, a different EA executive, or maybe this collective miasma of EA executives, decided that, you know what, we thought the first idea was probably for the best, and they had to change midstream a second time and go back to the original model. And like, that's not really a great, that's not really setting up the Veilguard for success. And so it was really interesting about it is like you had this like again really interesting deep dive by Jason Schreier about like what happened behind the scenes and how the larger market forces influenced EA's meddling basically into the development of this. And like you also had this like this other like counter narrative. And again, I've talked about this before, like the weird, like the anti-woke, like gamer crowd, the outraged tourists, as Sean, the YouTuber, describes them, where like you saw these really tone deaf articles about like from like places like Forbes where it's like, the real reason Dragon Age the Veilguard failed is because we have this one trans character in like one small side quest, and that is, forcing woke politics on there, and that's why it failed, and completely ignoring this bigger piece of why the more likely reason Veilguard failed, which is these larger market forces that are kind of influencing all of AAA gaming.
Yeah, it wasn't the fact that they cut our staff in half, that they cut our budget, they forced us to make it a year too early, and that the CEO took away $30 million from the pay that would have gone to our like award-winning artists. It was the fact that that there was a gay guy in it. And what you're describing, it makes me think of that New Bird Shoes, a shoe company that makes shoes and sells shoes for people to put on their feet. They're like, we're not doing shoes anymore. We're just doing AI. And of course, it didn't work out. Like, it boosted their stock for 700%, but then it all collapsed. And it's just the same thing where it's like, like the executives have the mind of a child and the memory of a goldfish. And so you'll be like, hey, we're making this game that's going to fit this market. And they're like, hey, what if we made this about soccer instead? And you're like, no, what are you talking about? Why would we? It just doesn't work.
But the line goes up. The line, it has to go up.
And also, meanwhile, while BioWare was being hollowed out by EA Larian, the people who made the Divinity games of all people wind up spending that time like growing their studio, and they make Baldur's Gate 3. And now, like, one of the most popular games of all time is a crunchy turn-based role-playing game. It's exactly the type of thing that BioWare used to make. Like they got edged out of their own niche by the people by the rat scurrying at the dinosaur's feet.
And I think about like Stardew Valley exists because Harvest Moon refused to innovate, right? And like all of the city building games, including I think it's like Metropolis 2000 or something like that. There's some new game coming out that's like very, very, very Sims 2000 coded. That's a single one-person dev. So search whatever I just said, and hopefully you'll find it. But all of the people that grew up playing that, it's like with Dustfront, the game that I put a rec out recently. All of the people that grew up playing Westwood games, and they had that just stolen away from them by these executives, are now just like, well, fuck it, I'll make my own. And then they do, and they're great. Like so many city builder games, so many other like franchises, like where the entire genre can be nuked from above by an executive decision, the fans make their own, So that is the silver lining.
Yeah, I believe the game's called Metropolis 1998.
Dude, it looks so like I don't even like city builders, or like the level of granularity. I just think it's really cool.
One thing that really drove the indie market when the modern iteration of the indie market started with games like Super Meat Boy is like one example of like what the sort of like mid to late 2000s games is like people finally had access to the tools that they could build them easily on their own. And they no longer had to deal with like the biggest issue that would have impeded those kinds of games was distribution. Mm-hmm. Like if you're making your game individually and you're putting it for free download on your own website or on Steam or GOG or wherever, like you no longer have to worry about putting it on store shelves, and you never have to worry about having a massive market appeal because you can then carve that niche. And like that's where a game like Stardew Valley was able to carve that. It's like, people wanted this. People wanted more of that classic Harvest Moon, and they weren't getting it. So this guy's like, okay, I'll make it. And they gave him all of the money, kind of thing. And like one of the, we've talked about a lot of doom and gloom, and there's plenty to talk about in terms of the AAA scene. But I guess one of the silver linings, one of the positive things now is like you see all these people who are like hyper dedicated, who make these very specific games for these extremely specific audiences who like they love that stuff, and like they this is what they want. Like clearly there's an audience for there's clearly a market for these kinds of things, and they're just not being served by the biggest ones.
Whatever pill it is, that's I guess it's the white pill, but it's like whatever that is. I feel like that for like specifically solo devs or like small crew devs, like that's where so much cool shit is happening. Fucking Balatro, Inscription. There's so many amazing titles coming out from all of these people. It's like this really interesting things, challenges, and risks that are being taken by people that aren't confined by a bunch of fucking bean counters. Like go indie, man. Don't use AI. Go indie.
They did announce that now they're making another Mass Effect game, and also Amazon is working on a Mass Effect show, apparently. So, like, it's just kind of trying to think the whole reason why they made Mass Effect was because they wanted to get away from having to deal with a license, and now Mass Effect is just another license. Like, you have people, like, I'm sure now there's like a universe Bible they have to follow for this show, and it's like it's become a brand into itself now. So it's never gonna surprise us.
God, and the novels too. You have to obey the lore that's written out in the fucking novels.
They're comic books. I got the first Mass Effect novel at like a Goodwill at one point. It's sitting on my shelf. And I just never read
You're
it.
probably not missing much.
I just know it because Mass Effect 3 is one of those things that has characters where it's like, oh, they were introduced in a novel if you want to know where they're from. Then you read the novel and they're like, oh, no, it's that assassin guy that's really good at killing people. Watch out.
That's it. That's exactly it. That's when I checked out of all the Marvel stuff because I was like, I'm not going to watch a season of a TV show to understand a quip in a movie. Fuck off. I am a grown man.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have some recs at the end of the episode, but before we get there, thank you for listening. Please check out the Patreon. It is $1 American a month. All of that money goes to Jay and Steve. You get a bunch of bonus episodes, lots of extra stuff, and all of that money goes to help keep this pod alive. And if you want to find us, we are at iftipod@gmail.com and iftipod on Twitter. If you want to find me, Winslow Domain, go to winslowdomain.com. Find me on Twitter at Winslow Domain and on Instagram at Calculations. And also, please go to the United States Department of Gangstalking.com. You can see some of the cards, read about the game, and also join the Discord if you want to play test. I'm trying to do that as much as I can these days. Thanks for all that. And also buy stuff from my shop. P.S. I love you. Anyways, Jay, where can they find you?
Hey, Brandstetter on Blue Sky, linktr.ee in the show notes. Still working on the show like usual.
Cool. And Kevin, where can we find you?
Well, first of all, you can find me on my socials at Tierpargon, Tierpargon on Blue Sky. That's a reference to Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem. But I don't post it very often, but the best way you can reach me is through Scandalous Games, my podcast about video game-related controversies. We do a whole bunch of fun topics about game controversies. We've had Jay on. We did a whole thing on anti-video game lawyer Jack Thompson and his war with Rockstar Games that led to him eventually getting permanently disbarred, as well as a whole bunch of other fun topics. We've covered everything from Mortal Kombat to Night Trap to Manhunt to a bunch of much more obscure things. We even talk about Pokemon fan games. There's a whole bunch of stuff in the back catalog.
Excellent. All right. Do we have any recs?
Yeah, my rec was going to be my episodes of Scandalous Games, and I shouted them out when I did them. But yeah, episodes 83 and 84 are my two on there. So yeah, if you want more of me and more of Kevin, you can find it on
Excellent.
there.
I have one too. I'd be remiss if I didn't recommend this because my partner Kate and I love watching horror movies, and we watched not too long ago at Philomoka, which is a great film venue in Philadelphia. We watched this awesome indie movie called Buffet Infinity. It came out in 2025. It's directed by Simon Glassman. It's a compilation of different clips that are taken in the style of late 1980s, early 1990s local public access television. It's incredible and weird, and it's funny as hell. And I recommend checking it out if you can find it. I think it's on Amazon right now. And without spoiling too much, it's just amazing. It's a lot of fun.
Excellent.
I highly recommend it.
I think I've already recommended people watch RRR. If you haven't already seen that, holy shit, it's so good. The only other thing that I would say that might be interesting to watch, it is not a good movie. It is very fucking bad, but it's called Scarlet Warning 666 by Palmer Rocky, who spent 40 years making 4 different movies and then roughly stitched them together to make this fucking abomination. It's very, very Neil Breen, kind of schizophrenic filmmaking. It's real bad, but you get to see a bunch of 70s babes dancing around, and you know what? That's not nothing. So those are my recommendations. Also, be nice to me, and we'll be back next week with even more. I'm From the Internet is created by jaybrandstetter and Winslow Domain. Edited by Steve Brown. Music by Steve Isbrook.